Heyo, it's OmniDog from OmniDog's Vault. Thanks for tuning in. This is short video on what I read this week. I actually read a lot. If you watch, you go back in my vault on my channel, you'll see that I did OmniDog and OmniCat reviews, and I did a Crime Corner review, and I read a bunch of books there, but those have already been reviewed. So if you want to check those out, go right ahead. Those were done earlier, but on my free time, my spare time, when I didn't have any homework that Taylor Brown likes to give me, I'm not going to blame it on Kristen because she's perfect, but I read, I just pull books out of the shelf that look interesting to me, and the first book I pulled out is a Euro comic, particularly Spain. It's from Spain. It's called The Ghost of Goya. Now, Gaudi, it does help if you have a teeny bit of knowledge of Gaudi. Very famous architect, very famous Spanish architect, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Barcelonians really love him. They love to call Gaudi their own. Not 100% sure about that, but I do know Spain, he's one of the most favored sons of Spain. So, The Ghost of Gaudi has to do with his architecture. A lot of it didn't get completed. He died a while ago, and a lot of his work did not get completed. And a lot of his work, a project would start, and then a few years later, before that project was completed, another project would start. So a lot of them were overlapping. Some of them are unfinished. It's kind of the process. People don't look at the architecture as a failure because it's not finished. They look more towards the vision, I believe. I am no expert on architecture, but that's about as far as I'll go. They appreciated Gaudi's vision. So in this book, there are a couple of graphic scenes that I can't show you that right off the bat, but the art is very good. Let's see if I can. Hope you can see that, all right? The art's really good. It is written by El Torres, and the art is by Jesus Alonso Iglesias. And in this book, a woman, just a regular old everyday woman, sees an old man walk into traffic, saves his life, gets run over by the truck, and ends up in the hospital, but nobody can vouch for her that she saw somebody. Only she thinks she saw somebody. So this is, I'm trying to make sure you can see and get a good picture of all this because the artwork's really good. And it's a Euro comic, so it's going to depend on the translation. And I think the translation's good. It got its point across. She becomes obsessed with Gaudi because she thinks she's seen his ghost. And this is a murder mystery above all. Crime, there are police involved trying to solve the murders. She is following up on the murders because she feels like she's seen a ghost of Gaudi. And is it a ghost? Does he lead her to find clues to these murders? Does he leave her messages? That's part of the fun of the book. Now, there's definitely a crime here to be solved, as people are dropping a lot in this book, and not in very pretty ways. So this is a lot of fun. I enjoyed this book. You don't need to be an expert in Spanish architecture to enjoy it. I would say Wikipedia Gaudi and get familiar with who he is. Very famous architect, and enjoy a really well-written, well-thought-out, well-constructed murder mystery with a hint of a little ghostliness, I would say. I can't really show you that. It's a little graphic, but the renderings of Gaudi's creations is very beautiful. So I highly recommend this book. It's by Lion Forge Magnetic Collection, and this is one Eurocomic that does not disappoint. I think the translation's exactly right, and I found it really enjoyable. Once again, that is the Ghost of Goya. Then I don't even remember. I don't know how I got this book. It came in Amazon. I ordered it from Amazon. I must have read a review of it or somebody suggested it. I like Cullen Bunn, so it's by Cullen Bunn. It's called Unholy Grail, and it's a little bit of a different take on the Arthurian legend, King Arthur, Merlin, Lady Guinevere. The entire story, overall story of King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and how Arthur saves the British Empire, or the British island, of all its warring factions, is pretty much intact. But in this scene, a demon takes Merlin's place. And that's where the story goes a little bit differently. Things are a little, there are things that happen that are a little supernatural. There are things that happen that are a little grisly, a little raw. You know, it was way back in those times. The demon is running things. Arthur takes his advice, takes the demon's advice, so you know that that's not going to turn out well. I think it's very interesting. If you know the Arthurian legend, Morgan Le Fay's creation is really cool in this book. And I really thought it was a really cool touch. It's not that far off from just a regular old tale, except that it does have that supernatural element, and that the Lady of the Lake, who endows the sword to Arthur, demands his love, and in exchange for his love, she will give him the kingdom. Well, Arthur falls in love with Guinevere, so you know how that's going to end up. The Lady of the Lake is very much present in this book, and she's part of the supernatural forces that happen in it. So this is done really well with a supernatural take. The art is really well done by Mirko Kolak. And I'm not going to say this is the best thing Cullen Bunn's ever... Oops, I don't want to show you that. That's a major spoiler. It's not the best thing, but it's one of the better things Cullen Bunn has written. I think he really had fun writing this, and you can tell. I think it is very much worth picking up. It's by Aftershock. It's not expensive, and it's called Unholy. It's called Unholy Grail, Volume 1, and then the subtitle is Siege Perilous. That is the chair that you sit in once you finally got the Grail. And of course, what does it cost to get the Grail? And I want to just show you the colors here. I don't want it to be so close that you can read it, because it might be a little bit of a spoiler, but the coloring in this book is really good too. So, Unholy Grail, Cullen Bunn, really good. And my cord's tangled up on Wolverine here in just a sec. Okay. I'm not kidding. This next book, one of my books of the year. You are going to laugh. I don't blame you. I didn't expect anything from it. And I don't know that anybody else expected anything from it. Some people didn't even know Adam Hughes had a sense of humor. They didn't know that he drew the interiors of this book. This book is flat out A+ fun. and I had a blast reading it. I want him to do more. I don't even know how, who did this? Boom? Archie Comics Publications, but I thought Boom put this out. Archie Comics Publications, Bob Montana, yabba yabba. It's by Archie Comics. I'm talking about Betty and Veronica. And this is an older book, and I just happened to just pull it out and read it. Not only does he do the great covers to it, but he does the interiors too, which, when has that happened? Once in our lifetimes? And Betty and Veronica are rivals in this to the max. Riverdale has never been like it is in this. Everybody is funny. It is cutting edge funny. I loved this book. His interior art is wonderful. There is a plot. There is structure. There is an overarching theme. Betty takes no crap from anybody, and Veronica is happy to dish it out. Of course, the artwork is fantastic. And this is Midge right here, Moose and Midge from Riverdale. But it is really fun. It is super fun. And that's why it's one of my books of the year, because this year's sucked. This year's been 2020 for historians that are watching it 100 years in the future when they discover my channel and go, OmniDog's, who is he? That's how they're going to talk in the future. But it is fun. It made my day better reading this. I want to read it again and again and again. I want him to put out more and more books. I can't say enough about how much I enjoyed this, how much I loved it, and how hilarious it was. I mean, it wasn't like watching Anchorman hilarious, but it was subtly funny and enough that it really made me just feel better. I just loved how I felt after the book, knowing that, first of all, I love knowing that Adam Hughes has a sense of humor. If you see him at a comic book convention, he's not going to do much except autograph your book and you get sent on your way. So to get to know him through his writing like this is really important. I really love this, and I highly, highly recommend this. This is definitely going on my books of the year list because it's fun. It is a ton of fun. Not everything has to be Watchmen. Not everything has to be Dark Knight Returns. Sometimes we can just read a book and have fun. Here's a book that wasn't fun. Neither fun nor funny. I want my 45 minutes to an hour back that I spent reading it. I am a huge fan of the writer, which is why this is such a disappointment. I have not read humor from him before. I don't want to read humor from him again. That would be Garth Ennis in Dastardly and Muttley. I'm going to eventually read all of the Hanna-Barbera books, and this gets an F. I wouldn't pour root beer on it because somebody out there probably enjoyed it. It didn't hit any of the right notes. If it was social satire, political commentary, the human condition that he was making fun of, failure on all points. This is not the Garth Ennis we know from Everything Great, like Preacher and The Boys and all his war stories, Red Team. I mean, I could spend a whole, I will spend a whole video eventually about Garth Ennis, just him alone, because he's fantastic. He's one of the great writers alive. He does not belong doing a Hanna-Barbera comic. I mean, the art is serviceable. It looks like a cartoon. There's some kind of love drone that gets hijacked and changed and everybody starts acting like a cartoon character all over the world. This really plain female officer all of a sudden starts getting very shapely and becomes a damsel in distress. Dick Dastardly's partner becomes Muttley, like a dog. Everybody around the world is getting changed into cartoon characters. I couldn't tell you what the point of it was. It wasn't funny. There was no social commentary that made a point. There wasn't any kind of political humor in it. And if it's just supposed to be a plain old story, well, it was boring then. I mean, if it's not supposed to be funny, I don't know why he bothered. But this, I'm sorry, this was not my cup of tea at all. If you're out there and you read it and you enjoyed it, I think that's great. I'm jealous because I wanted to love it. I love Garth Ennis. He is one of the great writers we've got going right now. But I am jealous if you enjoyed it, because I did not enjoy this book at all. At all, at all. Highly disrecommend it. Dastardly and Muttley. It'll get reviewed again in a short form when I do the Hanna-Barbera books. Don't bother. Now here's kind of a conundrum book for me, because it was a little too short. This is the last book I'll review. It was a little too short, but what I read of it was great. The only thing it suffers from is being too short. I thought it could have been longer, and that is Dracula Mothereffer. And it is filled with color-saturated, beautiful artwork that's like... Okay, now I kind of have to be careful of this. Beautiful color-saturated artwork. Back in the late 1800s in Vienna, the brides of Dracula nail him shut to the bottom of his coffin, where he is considered dead and rendered helpless. Fast forward to 1970s LA, and a socialite discovers the coffin and wants to resurrect Dracula because she wants eternal youth. She's a starlet that's losing her youth. The highlight of this book is easily the colors and the fun artwork. It is, of course, in LA, somebody wants Dracula to make them live forever and be immortal. That's everybody in LA. So there's also a photographer, a crime scene photographer that gets caught up in it. The brides of Dracula have still survived and are trying to get Dracula back in his coffin. And the crime photographer, who's right here, he gets wrapped up in it. He is trying to capture, crime photos back in the 70s, like, as it were, when crime photos paid for a living, I guess. And it is a beautifully presented, really fun book. It's not expensive. It was $16 in a nice hardcover format by Alex DeCampi from Image. If you buy it, go into it knowing that it's short, and it really could have been a couple issues longer to give us more feeling for who the brides were, give us a little bit more on the photographer, give us something more on Dracula. I would have liked to have known more about the starlet and the brides and the photographer, and it could have been longer. That's my only complaint. It really should have been longer to give us more time to get close to the characters and enjoy it more. That's what I read was good, though. I liked it a lot. I really did. So just know that going into it, if you decide to get Dracula Mothereffer that you're going to, you may feel not shortchanged, but you may be feeling like, I could use some more. It happens. So I appreciate you watching. I hope I gave you some tips on what to read, maybe some helpful hints on what to go out and get. Feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, leave a comment. I always respond to comments. And I appreciate the fact that you took the time to watch this video. Thank you very much, and peace and love, peace and love.